Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode until the question and answer period. If you would like to ask a question at that time, please press star then 1 on your touch-tone telephone. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I would like to turn the meeting over to your host for today's call, Mr. Jared Liu. Sir, you may begin.
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining. This is the Brown Bag Lunch Series. It's a monthly webcast held at the lunch hour loosely, depending on where you are in the country. The trainings leverage local successes by amplifying to a larger audience 2 model organizations, methods, materials, and approaches. Sessions are planned to last no more than 1 hour with 2 presenters speaking on the same topic from slightly different perspectives, each for about 10 to 15 minutes, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of questions and answers. Today's session is approved by the ISA for 1 CEU and SAF for 1 CFE Category 2. If you have not already given me your certification number, you can email me after this session if you'd like that credit. Alternatively, most state landscape architecture boards require only a certificate of completion, which I'd be more than happy to provide to anyone who requests after as well. This is a program of the Alliance for Community Trees, and we encourage anyone to consider joining if you're not a member. Today's session is special event fundraising. Special event fundraisers are an opportunity to raise money, of course, but also increase the visibility of an organization. Because they can be such a great marketing device, there are many details to consider, from the invitations and decorations to food and music. This one event could be the image of your organization in the community. So whether they're held at a private club, feature a live band, dancing, dinner, awards, or a raffle, they're about having fun. Today's first speaker is Kelly Skumutz, who is Tree People's Annual Fund Director. Kelly oversees all restricted fundraising programs for Tree People, including direct marketing, major donor campaigns, an honor memorial tree dedication program, corporate relations, and benefit events. Kelly has worked for environmental nonprofits since 1994 and is well-versed in the areas of development, marketing, administration, and board relations. I turn it over to Kelly.
Well, good morning from Los Angeles. Some of you are in the afternoon and hope all is well. And this is my first participation with an ACT conference call and learning session, so I'm excited to be part of this. And it's 10:06. I'll try and make my presentation just 10 minutes long and invite questions after the fact. And I guess I just wanted to start with a bit of history about our special event. My organization, again, is Tree People, and we've been in existence for 35 years, planting and caring for trees in Los Angeles County. And our special event, annual fundraiser, is called An Evening Under the Harvest Moon. This year we'll be celebrating 21 years of that event, and it's gone through many iterations over time. This year we are very lucky to bring it back to our park headquarters. We're located on 45 acres in Los Angeles City Park, and we have a brand new Center for Community Forestry, which has about 4 acres at what we call the hilltop, with an interactive watershed garden for kids to learn from and interact with. We've got a nursery, we've got an outdoor education classroom for the field trip students that come up, and we have an actual building. It's a Platinum LEED certified building for community conferences and retreats, things like that. So it's the first time we're bringing the event back to the park in 6 years, and it's really a point of interest for our guests that have been missing this location for some time. In the years in between, we've been in traditional hotel ballrooms, and last year we were outdoors on the Warner Brothers studio set, which was nice. It certainly started to advance the notion of kind of a more unique event, something that's not, kind of stuffy and kept indoors. So we've been moving back to the out of doors, and that's been really exciting. And I hope the event is scheduled this year for October 11th. So we're in the height of event planning and fundraising. I really hope that bringing it back to our headquarters in our park is going to do wonders for sales in kind of an economic downturn and politically active year. So with that landscape, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit more about the position of the event. The first thing that we do every year after setting the date and making sure we have our location is identifying an honoree or a slate of honorees. And that's run from everything as crazy as having 30 people represented in our 30th anniversary year of the organization, which I would not recommend, to individuals and businesses. And what we find is, of course, the higher the stature, the deeper the Rolodex, the better it is for fundraising. And usually it's kind of a single gift. We don't see a lot of multi-year long-term commitments from that list that honorees provide for specific solicitation. But we do count on about $100,000 every year to come in through the honorees. So that's kind of that unique, what we hold uniquely aside and as a responsibility for that group. This year we're giving the Partner in Community Award to the Walt Disney Company. They are a partner with a Green Schools campaign that we have in Los Angeles to the tune of about $250,000. So they're very deserved in that sense. The rest of it is a little bit of a struggle. What they're going to be doing is putting together their own 2-minute video that will show at the program where they'll tell their own story about their, environmental initiatives company-wide. So last year we did have another business. It was an environmental engineering firm called CDM. And then we also had an individual, somebody on the Los Angeles Planning Commission. And I guess as far as honorees are concerned, having the individual, last year her name was Jane Ellison Usher, and she was, in all of my years of special event fundraising, far and above any other honoree I've ever worked with, because she was willing to roll up her sleeves and really work the list. What she also did was a very brief training session for my board of directors and my event steering committee to give them tips about how to fundraise from her list. So if they were active in follow-up, they met with success in being able to raise the funds from the people she directed the solicitation to. So that was a huge coup. Slightly different working with a huge conglomerate like the Walt Disney Company, but there are benefits, above and beyond what they can't do as far as direct dialing is concerned. So honorees are very important to positioning the event success. Also, I mentioned committees and boards of directors. It's essential to have a group of support in dialing and getting people involved. What we've noticed is that there's a very small response to the direct solicitation through invitations. Most of our sales and attendees come from a phone call, an email, whatever that person-to-person contact is, so that we also start very early in the year making those connections, gathering the group of people who are going to work to do the group fundraising. And then what we also try and do is, kind of do some out-of-the-box thinking and put some creativity in the event planning. Bringing it back to our home is huge, but some other things that we've decided to do is move the event away from a traditional sit-down dinner where we hold people, where traditionally people have been held captive, in a 2-hour program of talking heads and presentations and celebrity speakers and, video presentations. So we're going with a progressive event this year, and what that'll look like is that we'll call people. The doors will open at 5 p.m. and we'll have a 1-hour reception and mingling with past hors d'oeuvres and some video, silent video playback that will, have pretty pictures of the work we do, and also some recognition slides for our supporters. And then at 6 o'clock, we'll do a 20-minute awards presentation. And for those of you that know our founder and president, Andy Lipkus, you know that that is a huge challenge to get his annual inspiration down to what is likely to be, 5 to 8 minutes. He's one of the main attractions of our event every year, but we really need to have him do it quickly and then make the introduction and the case for our award to the Walt Disney Company. And I'm sorry, we will have a celebrity MC open the show and command the room, if you will, even though we'll be outdoors. That's a huge room. So to get everybody, positioned and paying attention, we're expecting about 600 people, is something that, that famous face, that famous voice, somebody who's learned and trained to be a commanding presence will do that. And so we'll do a 20-minute, very short program, and then we're going to do an unveiling, if you will. We'll have the reception will be in the parking lot area of our park, and then we'll have a fence that's tall enough to basically hide, what the park has been set up to look like for this event. And we'll do kind of an opening and invite people to come in, and then they're invited to explore the park and take part in the festivities as they will. We'll have a DJ playing, until 9 p.m. And we'll have 6 food stations that are sponsored by some of the local chefs and restaurants of note here, and they are donating their food and their time to this event. We'll also have a main bar and some other specialty wine bars. Again, everything has been donated, or we anticipate that it'll be donated when we're done with all the asks. We'll have 5 kind of hands-on interactive stations for people to come and visit. Since our park is basically brand new and open to the public, we'll have our employees and docents on hand to talk about our work and do some of it right there. If people want to plant seeds and get them ready for plugs for mountain forestry, they can do that. They can do some of the watershed garden interactive display. There's interactive display methods that people can do. So we'll have 5 of those that really stress the learning objectives and the reason why people are out to celebrate at $500 a pop to see the work firsthand. We'll have a silent auction in the building. Never do them outdoors. And then we have a second stage. Part of our park has an amphitheater. So it's a short walk, probably 50 yards from the hilltop down to our amphitheater. And there we'll have 2 music performances wrapped around another opportunity for people to hear from and interact with Andy Lipkus. The idea that we'll have there is that it's kind of a inside the actor's studio approach where we'll kind of do role reversal and have a celebrity guest interview Andy with a little bit of environmental and urban forestry Q&A. We're excited about that. I have to move it along. So that's going to be going on all night. People will do as they will. At 9 o'clock, we'll start our finale performance, and that will be where everything kind of shuts down. The food stations will close. The bars will close. We will open up a coffee bar and have the desserts going on. And then we're having a Latin jazz band perform. It's really kind of the call to everybody to come up, dance if you want to, but it's time to start thinking about going home now. And we are shuttling folks, so we anticipate about a 75-minute exit from 9 to 10, 15, 10:30. And it's about a 5-minute ride down there. And the last kind of progressive element of this event is the idea of gift ideas. Perhaps you're familiar with gift bags. Companies will donate products, sometimes services, that get stuffed in a bag and are hung on the back of a chair. Traditionally, that's how it is. What we're doing is inviting about 8 to 10 businesses to donate products of about $5 value each, and to set up a station so that people can we'll be giving out organic cotton bags and very nice bags. They're lined with a green, shiny material. So that's a nice gift in and of itself, but people can then stop at these kind of vendor stations, look at the products, touch them, feel them, smell them, ask questions, and take them home if they'd like to. We don't want to force anything on anyone. And so the idea is to have about 8 to 10 businesses participate for a total package value of about $50. So with all of that in place, we expect to raise about $600,000, again, from about 600 attendees. We do have some sponsoring agencies that will turn back tickets, which gives us kind of a nice holding place for the few complimentary tickets that we give out. The entry price is $500 per ticket, and then sponsorship packages go up to $25,000. And at no time do we give out more than 10 tickets per sponsorship. So we try and be pretty frugal with what we give away. And we have an actual cap at 600 because of the plans that we need to make with the food sponsors, so we can't go above that number that we've set in this year. I think that will do it, other than, I'm sorry, I need to go back to one other event component, and that is that we will have about 4 video stations, large plasma screen videos that we'll have displayed, and they will run 2-minute videos of Tree People programs so that what we can't show in person and in practice on the hilltop will be aired as kind of a video journal. So mountain forestry, campus forestry, street tree plantings, some of the education that we do in the community. Again, will be in 2-minute snippets for people to kind of watch and learn about our work. And that's part of our sustainability model for this year. We're trying to go completely paper-free, so there will be no tribute journal. We'll air all of the tributes on the video screens. We're not printing paper invitation. We've gone to an electronic invitation, and we've used a company called ERSVP to do that. There have been challenges in converting our audience from snail mail to email, but it's been well worth it. The depth of information that you can put on the web-based information is basically endless. So you can create a myriad dedicated pages to describe the event, tell people what to wear, where to park, how to RSVP and invite other guests. It's endless. It's really been it's been well worth the investigation and the time that we put into doing that, and it's probably will save us probably 2/3 of the previous cost that we had invested in invitations. I am going to stop now. It's been a full 15 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kelly. If the operator can open the lines for questions, please.
Thank you, sir. If you would like to ask a question, please unmute your line and clearly state your first and last name. Your name is required to introduce your question. To withdraw your question from queue, you may press star, then 2. Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star, then 1 now.
And you can also ask a question online. If you type your question into the question manager, I can come on the line and read it for you. So I want to start by, Kelly gave us a lot there, and I want to see if there's anything that she can sort of hone in on as where the greatest margins are or the biggest pitfalls, sort of with the idea that, a lot of groups try to do special event fundraisers and come to the end result of the proceeds hardly match or, just barely exceed the cost. Are there certain areas you'd say the margin's so little, or areas definitely get into because the margin's so great?
And do you mean particular components of the overall fundraising campaign?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously concentrating on selling larger sponsorship packages takes as much time as selling a smaller one. So again, really working, I guess, with a board of directors, a steering committee, whatever kind of again, group fundraising. You can get together to set some strategic goals for those individuals dialing for dollars. It's a great idea. You know, and the things that we've been moving away from are, this will be probably the last year that we'll do a silent auction. Given the amount of time and attention, sometimes cash, that's involved in putting those together, the return has been so low and interest has been waning. And it's also something that in this market we're noticing there's a lot of redundancy. So getting, that probably takes as much time because we do make all of the arrangements in-house. We like to be kind of selective about who we invite to be part of the auction, trying to have a theme, trying to have some environmentality to what we put out there for people to bid on. That component probably takes as much time as all of the other event logistics put together. So the last year you're going to see it at Tree People for a while. And other than that, the margins, we average, again, about $1,000 for every person that comes through the door. So however that metric works, we've got to spend as much time cultivating the single-ticket people who might progress up to the thousands of dollars of larger level sponsors. So I can't say that there's, anywhere in that realm that there's a margin that's over the other.
Okay. How many people are needed for pre-planning, making contacts, etc., all the stuff that leads up to the event?
We've got a committee, an event committee comprised of about 8 people right now. I've got make that 1.5, we'll call it, board of director. 3 people from the honoring agency and 2 at-large community members that are major donors, school teachers that we've met through programs here that also have a lot of fundraising wherewithal or a lot of navigation ability within the community to get things of note donated or people to participate. I've got a staff of 3, including myself, that are basically working on it full time for the last month, and we'll be working on it until the event passes. And I've got 2 event producers. And it's very different creating raw space into a special event than going into something a little more traditional where you just kind of plug in, into what they've got as menu options, seating charts. There's very little access to activities in a ballroom or even on a Warner Brothers set. So, and then I've got a board of directors of 15. About 5 of them are active in the fundraising, and quite frankly, we didn't invite anybody to be part of the planning and logistics team. We've got a staff at Tree People of 55, and we've asked each department to play some role, not only being here night of and making sure the operations of the event run smoothly. Beforehand, each department has taken it on to identify 2 components of the auction that they could, try and get donated. And really with the auction, we've been trying to create packages that are valued at basically several $100s. We'll have a few things that are kind of less than $100. We want to, have something for everyone, but we're trying to combine things, whether it be hotel stays with dinner, with, unique or non-traditional transportation to make it a packaged approach.
Okay. What's the name of the award you're presenting this year?
The Partner in Community Award. That's generally what we call the corporate honors. We have, when we do the individual award, it's the Evergreen.
And what is the fair market value of an individual ticket?
Fluctuates every year. This year we're going to call it $75. And really that's just the cost of food, entertainment, and the giveaways. It's, again, a unique enterprise where we're getting everything donated. So it's a lower fair market value than in previous years. I've had it at $100 and then $90 in the prior 2 years.
Okay. Does the operator have any questions in queue?
I have no questions in queue at this time.
Okay. Well, we will hold any additional questions then at this point, and you'll have a chance to ask Kelly more questions at the end if something arises for you. But we will turn it over to Kelly Quirk, who will be our second presenter today from Friends of the Urban Forest. Kelly is the Executive Director. Prior to joining FUF, Kelly served as Interim Director of the International Bill of Rights Project, Executive Director of the Rainforest Action Network, National Coordinator of Greenpeace's U.S. Temperate Forest Campaign, as well as their offshore oil, energy, and climate campaigns. Kelly's experience includes educating and politicizing the insurance industry regarding the economic and environmental risks and realities of global climate change. He has served on numerous nonprofit boards and is currently on the board of directors of the Hunters Point Family, a community organization working with at-risk youth in San Francisco's diverse and underserved Bayview Hunters Point neighborhoods. He has been a nonviolence trainer for over 20 years and is the father of 16-year-old Casey and 1-year-old Calliope. And turn it over to Kelly.
Thanks a lot, Jared, and hello to everyone out there in cyberspace. Our event here in San Francisco is a biannual event called Arcadia, Artists Celebrate Trees. And the reason why it's a biannual event is that we have works of art that are donated by over 100 artists to the event, and we can really only go to the artists every other year to ask them to do all the work it takes to actually complete the piece, as well as the other things that we ask them to do in terms of participating in the event, and I'll get to some of that later. So we have another event that fills that line in our budget in the even-numbered years. Arcadia falls in odd-numbered years. So that's the reason why it is a biannual event. We really couldn't go to all the artists every single year. And by way of intro, I also wanted to mention that it's not your normal auction event, as Kelly Skumatz made some reference to with the silent auction that Tree People does. There's a lot of events that you all may be familiar with that have an auction component, usually a silent auction component. And the basic thinking behind that is, while you've got the people in at your event, whether it's a dinner or something like that, an awards presentation, if you're not also giving them the opportunity to spend a little more money on this spa package or this bed and breakfast they can go to or this trip to Hawaii or something like that, you're leaving money on the table. This event is different in that it is specifically designed as an auction event. It has a silent auction component to it and a live auction component to it. So it is not a relatively standard nonprofit fundraising event, like I said, a sit-down dinner kind of thing or a reception. It actually exists to be an auction. The other thing I wanted to mention is, and I apologize in advance if there's some things that I'm mentioning to you all that are just really obvious and you've known for a long time, but there are a lot of other important reasons to hold events other than fundraising. In fact, if you look at it, my sense is that if you just look at an event as a bottom line fundraiser for your budget, it's really not worth the resources of the organization, right? Time, people, and money that you put into the event for the return that you get. It's other tangible and intangible objectives that you can achieve for the event that really make it worthwhile. Just to mention two of them with respect to donors is, one is that it functions as a donor recognition event, right? For people who are already donors to the organization, it gives them an opportunity to really come and have fun, to mix with other donors, to see some great art, to kind of dress up, to have a fun time at what is a really dynamic and pretty unique and special event. So it's almost a gift for us to, from us to them in a way. And then the other one is as a donor cultivation event. You know, there are people that we obviously reach out to through the artists primarily to get them to come to the event, and it's an opportunity for us to familiarize them with the work of Friends of the Urban Forest and invite them to become supporters of the organization too. And then, of course, after the event, because we have all their names that we have captured, there's a lot of opportunity that we have to follow up with folks to bring them into the family of Friends of the Urban Forest. So from that, I'll move on to talk. Oh, I want to say one other thing about that too. We actually have a body of donors to the organization who are really only event goers. Right? They've made it very clear that they don't want to be members per se. They don't want to be solicited. They don't want to get any mail or calls or any other outreach from us. They're going to come to an event. They're going to be a sponsor of that event, which means that they'll pay more than just an individual ticket. There's sort of an understanding between us, even if it's not a spoken or agreed upon understanding, that that's what they will do, and they're going to come to our events annually, and that's the way that they support the organization. And they know that they're going to have a lot of fun at the event because we've actually established ourselves as a group that knows how to put on a good party. So there's that role as well that the event serves. It captures, I would say, about 30 significant donors to the organization who support us through our events. It also represents annually about 8% of our budget. So we're actually planning in the last couple of years since we started. Arcadia actually started in 2003. I was not here at Friends of the Urban Forest at that time, but it was we did it again in 2005, and since then we have established as an organization that didn't used to do any events for the decades before that it was around, that it was something that we wanted to do annually, and so we plan for around $100,000 net for the events that we do annually, which I said is around 7-8% of our budget. What I want to do now is kind of walk through a pretty straightforwardly chronological how-to of how we do the event, and I've broken that down into there's sort of two concurrent groups of activities that are going on as you plan for the event. One is on the logistics side, and then one is on the fundraising and revenue side. So I'll talk about the logistics side first, then I'll talk about the fundraising and revenue side, and you all can understand that those things are going on concurrently. So the first thing in terms of the logistics is we have to do the outreach to the artists. And Arcadia was originally conceived by a group of 3 artists who were supporters of the organization and realized that they had this idea that art could support trees in the urban and community forest in San Francisco. And they pitched it to the organization back in 2002. They put on the first one in 2003, and then I became the new executive director in 2004, and a couple of the artists who had the original conception came to me and said, hey, we did this a couple of years ago and it was pretty successful. Are you interested in doing it again? And I said, of course. So it's become an established and branded event that we put on in odd years biannually. So what we need to do, though, is we need to invite the artists who are going to be the over 100 who will donate their works to the auction. And that work of outreach to the artists is primarily undertaken by one artist or a small handful of artists. They know who's in the artistic community. They have the relationships with them. They know who are potential supporters of the organization. So they're the ones who really, with our support, with our resource support, really do that outreach to the artists. And in every single year, one of the things that they do is they sort of cull through the artists who have participated in Arcadia. And they'll drop a few, and then they'll do some outreach to try to add a few to Arcadia so that the standard of the art continues to increase. And the theme of the art that they're looking for is art that is inspired by trees and the forest, or literally of trees and the forest. So they come up with over 100 artists, and about a dozen of those we choose to be in a live auction, and the rest of them are in a silent auction. And those who are in the live auction are, to a certain level, relatively well known. Even some artists who are known in galleries, have gallery joints in New York and internationally. And those are the people who we look to bring in the larger sums from during the course of the live auction. And then all the other artists who are in the silent auction, their works are hanging around the gallery itself or the space itself where the auction is held. So speaking of that, that's the next thing we need to do, is we need to find a venue. And it's somewhat challenging to find a venue because you need a place that you can hang art. So referring to what Kelly Skumont said in terms of what Tree People has done for a number of years, it's not something that you can do in a hotel ballroom where a lot of standard nonprofit events are held, because you can't. I mean, you could put art around on the 4 walls of that, or you could bring walls in, but it's not exactly the most inviting space. We're looking for interesting space where art can be hung and it can be lit so that it stands out. So we've been successful in finding a number of really good venues to do that, but that's obviously the first thing you need to do. And then what venues, what dates the venues are available, because that will go a lot of ways towards determining when you want your event. We hold this event in the spring, which means anywhere from like mid-April to the first week of May. And that's another thing we're looking for, is that a venue we're looking at is available during those times. And we're starting the planning for the event about 10 months out. And so that means that we're right on the verge right now of beginning the planning for Arcadia 2009. Once you've got the event and you've got the date and you've got the artist outreaches going on, then you start doing your outreach to people who are potential attendees. So we send out a save the date card. We put it online. It's on all our e-blasts that go out. Following on that, obviously later on there's an invitation. We actually build a website for the event every single year, and the website has all of the art from the artist represented on it. The artist will make the guy that you see right now in the picture with me is with the glasses, the bald guy. That's Mark. Mark has had a number of different New Yorker covers that he's done. One of the ones you may be familiar with is one that was very popular. Is a picture of Shakespeare sitting in Central Park reading the paper and riding his bicycle. There was all these different Central Park kind of activities that were drawn. It was called Shakespeare in the Park. So that's Mark. So he's a San Francisco artist, and he's one of the people whose art we actually do in the live auction. So to get back to what I was saying, all the artists complete the piece itself. Usually we're talking about hanging art. There's some sculpture art, but mostly it's hanging art. So the artists, in addition to doing the piece, they get it framed, they take a digital photograph of it, they get the digital photo to us so that we can put it on the website, and they give us an artist statement as well. So the generosity of the artists year in and year out to me is astonishing. The things that they'll do for the organization. It's not just like they're going into their garage and they're saying, I think I got a picture of a tree around here somewhere I can donate to you guys. In most cases, they are doing original works of art specifically for Arcadia. And then the other things that I just mentioned beyond that in terms of getting it framed. We have a relationship with a framer here in town who gives them discounts to do that, but they're the ones who are taking care of that. And then the website itself will have, in addition to being able to buy tickets to the event and that sort of thing, it'll have every single piece of the shown, whether it's in the live auction or whether it's in the silent auction. You can actually bid on the art online if you want to. You can actually there's actually a closeout bid for the art. So we'll put a price on the art that's usually like twice what the designated value of the piece is by the artist as a closeout price, and you can actually close it out and just buy it right there online, or to show itself. That means nobody else will bid on it. That's your piece. Then moving on from there, you need to find, there's things like we need to find an auctioneer. So we're usually getting an auctioneer from an auction house here, like Sotheby's or Bonhams and Butterfields or someone like that, a professional to do the auction. As Kelly mentioned, for her event, we're looking into music. Sometimes we're doing live music. We've had like a jazz quartet play before. Sometimes we've had DJ music. We actually use caterers. We found in San Francisco that for an event like this, when it's all passed food with some tabled food, but there's no real sit-down space, that it's just a lot more efficient for us to work with a caterer rather than taking all the time it does to do the outreach to different food providers in San Francisco. And not only is it a question of the time here in San Francisco, but all restaurants in San Francisco are required to pay minimum wage to all of their staff, including their servers. And in San Francisco, that's about $9.46 an hour. So restaurants here in town are much more reticent to go ahead and do these kinds of events just because it costs them so much, because they're having to pay people $10 an hour to come to the event and serve. So you don't see that kind of activity going on as much anymore. So we go directly with a caterer that we have a really great relationship with through our event planner. I mean, I mentioned the event planner, but that's obvious. We're working with an event planner to put this all together, and she's someone who we've worked with for a number of years, so she's very familiar with the organization. We get the kinds of we're pretty good at getting donations for libations. Grey Goose Vodka has come in every year and sets up a bar and does a vodka station and has a couple of specialty drinks that they make for people. And, the joke that we have, in planning for the event is, get people to the Grey Goose bar for as long as possible before the bidding starts on the live auction, because you just find that it's true. There's kind of a direct relationship between the number of martinis they have and the amount of money that they're bidding at the live auction. We also get wine and beer and water and soda donations as well to have as libations. In terms of materials for the event, after we have, in addition to the save the date card and the invitation that I already mentioned, there's a program for the event that we print, and all the sponsors are listed on that program and that sort of thing, all the donors. And then obviously, eventually there's the event closeout. For an auction like this, it's a very important thing because you have people who are lined up with their pieces coming and closing out and paying for those pieces. And we've been able to develop a really efficient way to be able to close out people really rapidly, so you don't have a long line of people waiting for a long time to close out. And that has to do with getting those kind of Wi-Fi credit card machines and that sort of thing. We also have designated volunteers who are runners, who will go and run and get your piece off the wall and bring it to you, so we don't have people willy-nilly going around the space, plucking their piece off the wall. So that's a part of the event closeout. Two other things that I wanted to mention about it is that we always have a children's art component to it as well, whether it's young children or high school students. We had high school students from 3 different high schools in San Francisco present art as well, working with their teachers to do the art, which is also open to the auction. And one of the great things about doing that is all those students bring their parents, right? And so their parents are always going to bid on their art and other art that's going on as well, and it gives another kind of freshness to the event when we have either children's art or students' art and that kind of thing. And then obviously, backing up a little bit, we have to hang the show. Who's going to do that? Who's actually going to put the pieces on the wall? And we have a great relationship with a woman named Janet Bishop, who is a curator of painting and sculpture at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and a great supporter of the organization. And Janet brings her crew every single year to wherever the venue is on the Saturday before the venue. We try to have it on a Monday and on a Monday night. And Janet and her crew will spend the entire day hanging the show. And there's a real art as well as a science to hanging art, I have found out, in hanging a show like this. And Janet obviously is a pro and does a great job and is really gracious and a tremendous asset to the event itself. And sometimes we will also have a pre-event while the show is being hung, something maybe is kind of a family event or some children's activities or something like that, some way that we can at least invite people to wander around the event space itself to see the art while it's being hung, to have kind of a preview of it in that way. And that'll be a free event. And like I said, sometimes we'll look to have some sort of event going on like that, like having an art teacher there working with kids, inviting families to come who are supporters of the organization on the Sunday afternoon before the event. So that serves to kind of highlight the event and put some energy into it before the Monday night when it's done. So that's on the logistics side what's going on. Concurrently on the sort of fundraising and resource side, obviously the first thing we're doing is we're developing a budget. And at that budget, we're as I said, we're figuring out that we're trying to build a budget where we're going to look at like $100,000 net for that. So we'll develop the projections for the revenue and take a look at what our expenses are based on that kind of target. We have a presenting sponsor for the event. That's one corporate sponsor who is highlighted in all the event materials as the primary donor and supporter of the event. That's been Esurance, the online insurance company for the last couple of years, who we have a great relationship with. And then after that, we develop the other sponsorship levels that we want to offer to the different groups, individuals, and businesses that we're going to do the outreach to, the dialing for dollars, as Kelly mentioned, to try to bring in the big money for the event. So we'll set those sponsorship levels and then the kind of benefits that people get for those sponsorship levels. Things like how many tickets do they get to the event, what kind of signage they get to the event, are they on our website, will they be in our newsletter, for how long, those sorts of things. And of course those benefits increase depending on the levels of the benefits. The individual ticket or the level of the sponsorship, I should say. The individual ticket is $150 for the event. The highest sponsorship level is $25,000. And the sponsorship levels go from about $350 for 2 tickets, because you don't want to make your 2-ticket price the same as 2 individual tickets, or you'll just get 2 tickets for $300. So you bump that up a little bit. And there's about a half a dozen different sponsorship levels from there, going up to $25,000. And then obviously we'll develop those sponsorship materials. We will email them out, snail mail them out. The board of directors will get together and each pick off a piece of the people that they want to outreach to do that dialing for dollars to get people to be sponsorships. We will develop 2 different event committees. One is actually a committee that are the people who are the worker bees, who are putting the event on. And there will be one representative from the board of directors on that committee, and that's the person whose job it is to coordinate the activities of the board of directors. So that she or he is a representative of the board to that committee. And then the other people on the committee will be the event planner, me, the development manager here at the organization, somebody from the presenting sponsor, the people who are doing the outreach to the artists, and then any other interested supporters of the organizations who are dedicated to be worker bees, and so that group of people can be anywhere from a half a dozen to about 10 people who are meeting monthly to put the event on. And then the other committee is a host committee for the event, and that's largely an honorary committee of people, and we've really done a good job over the years of honing that host committee down to people who are in the art world. So we're talking about people who are either gallery owners, people from museums, artists who are well known, people who are in artistic media, reporting on art, critics, and those sorts of things. They comprise the host committee, and they, in some cases, they will do some of their own outreach into their communities. There was one person who has for the last number of years been on the host committee, who's from an art school here in San Francisco, and he actually has been able to get the list of the donors from the school to us that we can outreach to invite them to participate in Arcadia. Let's see. Oh, we always try to, we get a media sponsor as well, someone who's going to help us with the outreach and the marketing of the event. So it's been 7 by 7 magazine, which is a citywide magazine here in San Francisco, has been our media sponsor for the last couple of years, gives us full-page free ad space in the run-up to the event. We'll promote the event and other ads of their own and in their own outreach to their subscribers and their constituency. And so all of that, as you're getting closer to the event, you're really taking a look at what kind of media and what kind of stories you're doing, trying to solicit stories from the daily newspapers and things like that to tell the story about all these artists and their support of the organization and how it's an untraditional event in that way and how extraordinary the support from the artists is. We also give discount tickets to the artists, so the artists will obviously get to come in free. They'll get one free ticket, and then they'll be able to buy other tickets at a $75 level rather than the $150 individual level. And the thinking behind that is the artists are going to bring people who are in their community who are interested in art, or they're going to bring collectors in. And we actually work specifically with the artists in soliciting them and inviting them to do that. So we're trying to fill up the event space not only with people who are or current supporters or potential supporters of the organization, but people who are interested in art, because there's some very good art in the event itself. So those are kind of the two areas of concurrent activities that are going on and putting the event on. And then there's the event night itself, of course. And I know that one of the slides that you've seen here is actually, one of the volunteers holding the art up while the auctioneer is auctioning off the art. And of course, the people have the opportunity to mingle around, the live auction art, in addition to all of the silent auction art that's hanging on the walls, in order to think about what they want to bid on during the live auction. And the live auction is the only place that we have chairs. We obviously want people seated during the live auction, even though there's people still standing around the chairs. And it becomes a very lively and fun time during that the live auction, especially when you get some people who are bidding against each other going on, as I think you're all probably familiar with. Either you've seen it live or you've seen it in movies or something like that. A lot of energy gets generated when you have two people who are really vying over the same thing. So it's a great event. It's getting well recognized in the community. Every single year we count on it to do a lot of things for the organization, and we're looking forward to the future. Just to kind of wrap up and conclude this way, one of the things we're keeping in mind all the time is that we need to keep the event fresh and dynamic. The joke is, eventually our donors are going to run out of their need for pictures of trees. So how are we going to keep the event evolving? And one of the ways that we're going to do it is to do some digital and online stuff this coming year. It's one of the ideas that we have, and then we start talking about doing things like jewelry and other kinds of art that we will continue to build in, and so that the event itself stays really fresh in the eyes of the people who participated in. So that's about that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kelly. If the operator can open the lines for questions and answers, please.
Thank you, sir. Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star, then 1. Please unmute your line and clearly state your first and last name. To withdraw your question from queue, you may press star 2. Once again, please press star 1 to ask a question.
And I'll remind everyone also, you can ask a question online, and I'll come on and read it for you if you'd like. I had found out about this event. I didn't even know that one slide was the New Yorker cover artist. But I had found out about this event because I was in Kelly's office, and I saw a New Yorker cover, and I said, I know that artist. And then Kelly launched in and told me about Arcadia. So sort of it all comes back around full circle. It was funny, I was listening in, and I think there is one advantage San Francisco has in that, making the event about fun. I think people in San Francisco just like to have more fun anyway. We were just out there and we heard about how people, how they shut down the street and do alpine ski jumping, and they luge down Lombard Street. So I think part of the challenge will be thinking about how to do something like this in another city. And that was where I wanted to start with a question was, I know in this case the artist found you, but do you have thoughts on how other groups who when the artists haven't approached them, they can find the artist, or what drives the artist to support trees or urban forestry?
You know, it's a really good question, Jared, but I think the answer is it's relatively straightforward and probably not that complicated. I don't want to say that it's simple, but you know, it really only takes one. You know, if you have one person who has some component of a community of other artists, and that person is interested in the work that you do, maybe that person is already a supporter of the work that your organization does, that's really where it begins. I mean, we had three who had the idea together, but there's really only one who has been maintained over the years who continues to do the work, a woman named Christine Cariati, as an artist. And so, you know, you don't need to go out there and find 100 artists. You know, all you need to do is find one, and then, you know, they can begin to do the outreach with your support into bringing other artists into the fold, and of course it becomes viral at that point, right? There are you know other circles of artists and other circles of artists, and it spirals out and it spirals out and it spirals out. And I have found, as I said earlier, I mean, it's astonishing to me not only the generosity of the artists, but the interest that they have. It's almost like artists are looking for an outlet to have their art do more than just be a piece that they are putting a lot of their own spirit and effort into creating, and then a buyer is buying. But if it can have another additional benefit, in this case supporting the urban forest in the community that they live in, we find that they are excited to be a part of that.
Do you do anything special to keep that one critical artist engaged?
Well, you know, we're very nice to them, and we thank them a whole bunch and that sort of thing. But they also understand that, and you know, and sometimes they'll come back to us and they'll say, you know, I'm having a show. Would you mind promoting the show? And we'll go ahead and promote the show. Occasionally on our website, always on our e-blast. We have a bi-monthly email newsletter to over 10,000 people here in the area. So, you know, we'll do what we can to help them out, but they also know that there's not really necessarily a specific quid pro quo, that we are seeking their support through their art, and they're happy to give it without any strings attached.
Great. Does the operator have any questions?
I have no questions in queue at this time.
Okay. Can you please list again the venues you have used or will use?
Well, I don't know if it'll make any sense to anybody out there, the venues that we've used. I mean, one of the places that we used, for the first couple of years, we used a place called Somarts, and that's just kind of an acronymic kind of name for a place called South of Market Arts Gallery. And it was a wonderful place to use because it had a huge area with walls already in it and brilliant lighting and a lot of white walls for the art. So the art was able to be displayed really beautifully. And then it had another area where we were able to put, you know, where the food was passed and where the bars were and where the jazz quartet was playing, where the student art was and those sorts of things. So it was sort of like there's the party room and here's the art room. The challenge about that, and the reason why we moved away from it, and I'll mention parenthetically as well, the price was really right because it was run by a collective of artists, so they were really willing to give it to us at a discounted price. The problem with it was that the party that was going on in one room, very, very large room, you know, 100-foot ceilings, was so fun that it was really difficult to herd the people back into the other space where the live auction was going to be going on, right? So we decided that we were going to look for a space where we could have everything held in one area. And so the place that we held it last year was a place right on Market Street. If people are familiar with San Francisco, it's the boulevard that comes out from the ferry building that's right on the bay, not far from the Bay Bridge, and heads primarily west from there. A place called the California Gallery, which was also a fine place to hold the event. Unfortunately, the California Gallery is not there anymore, so we have the challenge of finding a whole new venue for Arcadia for next year.
Okay. How much of your time, and I guess just one other staff person is working on this, but maybe that's not right, but how much staff time goes into this?
Well, that's also a good question because I kind of laugh about it with the event producer. You know, we have a person who is very thorough and very skilled in her business and the work that she does to put on the event, and then we've got, you know, the different committees who are helping us put it on and that sort of thing. But it still seems sometimes in some weeks it'll be at least 50% of my time. And that doesn't necessarily mean 50% of my time as we get closer to the event, because as you get closer to the event, a lot of the real work is already done. But, you know, when you're working on doing the sponsorship outreach and when you're working on bringing the board along, you know, and when you're working on really developing, you know, the website and, you know, doing the outreach to, you know, when you're trying to get, you know, the drinks donated, wine donated and those sorts of things, it's kind of remarkable sometimes how much of my time can really be taken up in it. And one of the reasons that I've figured out why that must be is because I really enjoy doing that work and working with those people and putting the event on, because I know what a success it's going to be, and I know how I'm going to feel when all the art from the artist starts pouring in.
All right. Do you pay the folks who hang the art, or are they volunteers?
No, they're volunteers. Janet comes from SF MoMA, and she brings her crew of people, and they're all happy to volunteer for the day to do the work.
And if we want to start small, how many pieces would be a good goal?
Well, I mean, you want to make it substantial enough, I would say, so that people couldn't just kind of come in and pass through and leave. You would want to have enough variety and diversity in the art itself so that people would be able to find something that they liked. So even if you were starting small, almost like a pilot event, I would say you probably want about 50 pieces, and then you can choose to grow from there. You don't necessarily have to start with, we've actually whittled down the number. We had, I think in the first year they had about 130 pieces, and we've gotten it down over a couple of Arcadia since then to about 112, I think it was last time. Maybe even 108 at the end of the day, because some of the a couple of the artists weren't able to come through with their art. So we realized there's sort of a threshold that you don't want to go beyond that, because then it gets a little too overwhelming unless you really want to increase the outreach that you're doing for the event and the size of the venue and the number of people you want to get there and that sort of thing.
Okay. I think we're closing in on it. Does the operator have any other questions in queue?
I still have no questions in queue at this time.
All right. Well, I have one last question then. Do you set a minimum bid on pieces?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it's one of the things you do as well. You know, we want to be sure that all the pieces sell, just to take care of the artist. You know, of course, if you're an artist and you have a piece that doesn't sell, that doesn't feel very good. So we will have identified ringers, if we need them, who will go around to the pieces, and if it's, say, about halfway through the event itself or something like that, they'll go ahead and put a first bid in. Sometimes, and you know, there's a variety of other reasons for that as well. Sometimes people kind of need to be stimulated to begin to bid. You know, they're shopping, and now, okay, it's time to get your money out, right? And we found that can really be a catalyst. Once you see a bid's begun, then people will go from there. And we work with the artists on what that minimum bid is. And then there's also incremental increases in the bid itself. In other words, you can't just increase the bid by $1 or $5. It's usually around, depending on the piece, it might be $10. For other pieces, it might be $100, depending on how the artist values the piece.
Okay, great. Well, I think this has been very comprehensive. I want to thank Kelly and Kelly for presenting. I am going to put up, after this session, I'm going to put up a synopsis so you can find out a little bit more about both events, plus some other organizations that do special event fundraisers. Obviously, since our time is limited here and we can only hit a couple events, that's another way to extend the learning. I want to thank everyone who participated on the call, and also thank our sponsors, the Home Depot Foundation and the USDA Forest Service, for sponsoring this. Putting up on the screen right now a survey. If you could take a couple minutes to go out there and answer, I think there are 4 questions that really helps us to develop these, and I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, our next session is actually next Thursday. We've got a couple special presentations coming up in the next couple months about Neighborhoods Month, since that's right around the corner. It's in October. So next week we're talking about Neighborhoods Month and how to plan an event with Carrie Smith of Parks and People and Adrian Mendonca of Savannah Tree Foundation. So again, thanks to Kelly and Kelly for presenting, and thanks for our sponsors and everyone who attended today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.